is Scott Potter. I'm the director of Nashville Metro Water Services. I want to give you all an update on some water system operations that the citizens need to know about. First thing to note is the water system is not at risk. We have an unusual situation in certain areas of the city that I want to brief everybody on to explain what's going on. So the first thing I want to do is explain that we've set 2 records in production yesterday and today. On a day like today, we'll make normally about 90 million gallons of water a day. Yesterday we made 146, and today we're making 147 million gallons of water. So there's several things that are contributing to that, one of which I want to talk about right now. If you look behind me, this is a screenshot of a depth finder that we, in partnership with the Nashville Fire Department, we went out on the river looking for a suspected leak, because we have 2 crossings of water pipes. One crosses from the Omaha Water Treatment Plant over to Shelby Park, and another one crosses from the K.R. Harrington Water Treatment Plant by the Briley Parkway Bridge. So this was a screenshot. Everybody can see that right there. That's a plume of water. This is the bottom of the river right here, and that's a plume of water. We've got a 24-inch water pipe that crosses the river between Omo and Shelby Park, and we think we have a failed joint in the river, and water is escaping from that failed joint. We're losing several million gallons of water a day out of that joint, and it's contributing to the record production that we're experiencing. Good news is the plants are operating great. Being able to push 147 million gallons of water a day is a really good indicator of the success of the plants. But this is causing us a real problem, and I'm going to tell you what we're going to do about that and how it might impact the neighbors in the Joelton area, Bordeaux area, Whites Creek, and Trinity Lane. Those are tanks that we're having difficulty maintaining levels in, and when we close these valves, the water, I'm going to kind of show you the system map here. This is Omaha Water Treatment Plant right here, and this is K.R. Harrington. This is in Donaldson near McGavick High School, and this is Shelby Park across from Omaha. So in the East Nashville neighborhood, tracing all the way up to Joelton, this pipe here, it's a 24-inch, it's going to be closed. So when we close that, the water has to travel from K.R. Harrington across the river, backfeed into East Nashville, and also travel northwest up to the Joelton corridor. While the tanks are filling and the system is recovering, people in East Nashville and in those neighborhoods that I talked about are going to experience reduced pressure. So I wanted to point that out just to make sure that people weren't alarmed and they were able to expect what was going to happen. I have briefed the mayor, and he's fully on board with our plan, understands it, and is standing by to offer any other assistance that he thinks we may need or may ask for. We've also talked to our regulator, TDEC. They're fully informed and aware of our plans and are supportive. Also, I want to talk about other contributory factors to our increased production. We've had 8 main break repairs today, and that's really kind of a low number. If you kind of compare it to what we would have expected, having 1-degree temperatures for a couple of days, we expect to have more of those main breaks out there to repair. So it's important that if a neighbor sees a water in the street, water in the yards, water where they don't expect to see it, to call 862-4600 to report that main break so we can go out and repair it. I'm also requesting people to check the water outage map, nashville.gov/water. That shows you where our active main breaks are. So if you have reduced pressure, then check that outage map first, and that will give you an indicator of why you may have reduced pressure. I want to review my notes to make sure I didn't miss anything. So what it'll mean for residents along that corridor, East Nashville, starting at Shelby Park, and then trace a line, kind of a curve up to Joelton. If you live in that corridor of service area, you may see reduced pressure. We expect this to be the case for about 6 to 8 hours, and then the K.R. Harrington plant will be able to refill those tanks and reestablish that system normal pressure, and we should be fine. tomorrow morning, if you wake up and you live in the Shelby Park area, if you still have reduced pressure, it's really important to give us a call, because that means we have an additional issue that we need to repair. But I want to make sure that everybody understood that was going to be happening. I've talked to Chief Swan. He's in the room. Firefighting will not be affected, and the chief assures me that we'll be good to go on that. And I'll introduce the two council members that are in the room, Councilman Parker and Withers, and to see if they have anything they'd like to say about this.
Yeah, good afternoon. I'm Councilmember Sean Parker. It's Councilmember Brett Withers here. Just want to thank everybody from Metro Water Services for identifying this issue so quickly and proactively communicating to our constituents and the residents in Nashville that are going to be affected, what they can anticipate in terms of impacts. You know, I haven't heard anything that we're necessarily asking folks to ration water at this point. I think cooking is fine, cleaning is fine. It might not be the best day to fill up the pool, but I think your routine water usage should be just fine. So thanks everybody for being here to give us some information. And Brett, do you have anything you'd like to share?
Just want to again remind folks, if they do see a water main break or water that's coming out, please go ahead and call 862-4600 to get that reported, so that if there are any other breaks, we can get those resolved as quickly as possible. But thank you to Metro Water for your diligence.
Thank you.
So, thank you, gentlemen. Now I'll answer any questions as y'all may have. Chief Swan can answer questions as well.
How many people do you think it'll affect number-wise, if you can put a number on it?
I really don't have that number off the top of my head, because it's kind of hard to capture that geographically from our data system. It's more of a neighborhood kind of driven thing. So if you live in Joelton, if you live in the Bordeaux area, if you live along Riverside Drive, Trinity Lane, those areas, Whites Creek, Pike, if you live in those neighborhoods, you may see reduced pressure. We're trying to be as inclusive as we can. We really think it's going to be localized to the Shelby Park area, quite frankly, but with the tank levels being what they are, we may see some reduced pressures in those other areas, but most likely it's going to be localized to the Shelby Park area, to the neighbors that live there.
How do you go about fixing something underwater?
That's a great question. So next week, we're going to have a contractor come in with a drone and a dive team, and they're going to submerge and go look at the pipe visually and take photographs of it and video of it, because we need to identify the extent of the damage. And then once we have an identification of the extent of the damage, then we're going to have to design something to repair it. It's this 24-inch pipe isn't critical under normal operations. Like in January, if we didn't have this sort of demand because of the cold weather, we wouldn't really need this pipe. So it's not like it's going to be a critical repair, but we need to have it back in service by springtime when people start irrigating and things like that. But we put it in the water, we can fix it. It may come back to the point where we have to relay new pipe and pull that pipe out of the water. Most likely, I think that's what will happen. It's really not that complicated. I'll kind of show you. This is the pipe. It sits on. It's kind of buried maybe in 3 feet underneath the river bottom. But that's a ball and socket joint, and that's a ball and socket joint. So what that does, it allows the pipe to move a little bit with the river and take some stress off of it. But unfortunately, on occasion, you're going to have a failed joint like that. So quite frankly, the easiest solution may be just to relay a new pipe and then pull that pipe out of the water.
Was it pretty old? Or do you know
it was installed in 2012. So it just goes to show you that sometimes even the new stuff has a failure.
What's the root cause here? Was it just the cold weather? Was it influx of water? What?
It's a combination of things. Anytime you have an operating environment like we've had in the last week with extreme temperatures and extreme demands of flow, it's going to cause problems in a variety of forms. Perhaps we may have had a smaller leak that has been kind of persistent, that was exacerbated by the cold weather, but it's going to be kind of difficult to identify what caused it.
And you mentioned off the top that I believe in the last 2 days that you guys have had a record number of water being pushed out. What's the cause of that as well? Leaks and breaks. This is a good opportunity to point out that if you own a business and you haven't been to your business in a while, and it's probably a good idea to go look. If you've got neighbors that are out of town, you might want to walk around their yard a little bit. A big contributor, most likely, is going to be irrigation systems that are flowing really, really badly because a lot of it is non-metal pipe. So if you have a failure on a backflow preventer, in some cases those backflow preventers are attached to 8-inch pipes. And if you've got 30 or 40 of those broken, that's a lot of water. So a majority of this, exclusive of the 24-inch pipe, is a direct result of the cold weather. We're just not used to or designed for 1 degree temperature this persistent.
Would you go over again what you did on that second page, but do it from behind the microphone? So
Okay.
we couldn't hear what you were saying.
I'm sorry, that's a
well
good
about
point.
what was happening.
Justin, if you could
Yeah.
hold that up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what you're seeing is a map of Davidson County. This is our service area. So the Omohundro plant is right across the river from Shelby Park. And there's a water pipe that crosses Omohundro, crosses the river right there, and then goes into East Nashville. And if you're a drop of water, you can kind of trace yourself from Omohundro all the way to Jolton water tank. So if you go all the way up to Jolton, there's a big old water tank up there in that neighborhood. If you're a drop of water, most likely you started at Omo and you traveled all the way up there. Now, since we closed those 2 valves on that pipe, the water's got to travel from K.R. Harrington plant, which is in Donaldson near McGavick High School, and it's kind of go essentially around the horn. It's got to go a lot further to get back to, as an example, Trinity Lane tank, Bordeaux tank, and we're really kind of backfilling against a really low pressure plane. So the water's going to flow quickly, but it's just going to take time to get there. Plus, it is the afternoon; people are getting home and they're starting to cook and things like that. So we see our normal higher demand in the afternoon. So the reason I requested y'all's time is just to kind of give everybody an idea that it's going to be temporary, and over the evening, the system should tighten up, and the tank should refill, and we should see normal operations after that. I will say that if we wake up in the morning and we still have this sort of situation, then we're kind of back to the races and finding out some more leaks out there. If people live in kind of a rural areas of Davidson County, if you could kind of just maybe walk your property a little bit and see if you see water that wouldn't normally be seen from the street, that would help, because we've got people out looking, but the more eyes looking is the better for us. So we do request people look for and report those leaks, because at this point, every single break and every single leak correction is going to help us.
Can you talk about which communities are going to be affected by this and what kind of things that they will see happening to their water?
They may see a reduction in pressure. It's in some cases it will be just a little bit, and in some cases it might be noteworthy, but it's going to be neighborhoods like the Whites Creek area, Jolton area, Bordeaux area, Trinity Lane, Riverside Drive, Shelby Park, East Nashville in general. And East Nashville will see it first, because when we close those valves, then all that water's got to travel all the way around to get back, and the pressure plane is going to take a little while to get reestablished. So the citizen who's going to see this first and most dramatically is going to be the person who can see our water plant from across the river.
And has that happened yet, the shutting off of those valves?
It's in process right now.
Okay.
Can people help in any way? I mean, like maybe wash and close later at night?
Yes, I think that would be a nice request. This evening is not, like the councilman said, you don't want to use a whole lot of water if you live in these neighborhoods, just to help us recover. But this isn't a crisis. I mean, we're trying to be a little proactive in getting ahead of a problem before it gets worse.
We said 8 main break repairs today. That number's kind of low. Do you anticipate this being a persistent problem for days to come?
Well, a good comparison is in February 2021, we had 132 breaks in February. So, and it wasn't as cold. So that's what we're expecting. We may get lucky, but we're expecting that level of activity. We did have 1 degree temperature for a couple of days, and that's pretty outrageous, especially for this part of the world.
Are crews prepared to work throughout?
Oh yeah, our crews have been working around the clock, especially our field customer service reps, the people in those in the pickup trucks. They've been doing a lot of work go into people's homes, and generally identifying that people have frozen services. So that also gives me an idea to pitch the idea of finding your water shutoff valve. In your home, you need to find that water shutoff valve. Best way to find it is to start at the street, find your meter box, draw a straight line to your house, look inside your house, there'll be a little valve. Especially if it's a newer home, there'll be a little valve there. Put a piece of red cloth on it so you know where it's at. That way you can go close that valve in case you have a failure inside your home. If you don't have a water shutoff valve, then I would suggest you get one installed. You know, the plumbers right now are kind of busy, but maybe in a couple of weeks, couple months, you get that valve installed. That way you have the peace of mind that knowing you can turn the water off to your home in case you have a failure of a pipe for any reason.
If you can't turn it off, can you turn it off at the street?
You can turn it off at the meter box. We really wish people wouldn't do that because once you get inside that meter box, we've got some pretty complicated equipment in there, and that's why we want people to use that water shutoff valve in their home. But there is a little valve in there. You can rotate it for 90 degrees, and it'll shut off the pipe flow, the water flow in the pipe. But we would really rather people use that water shutoff valve in their home.
We're about to see a pretty nice warm up. Is that going to hurt this infrastructure any?
Well, it's going to bring the brakes out because what happened is the ground was really warm, 10 days ago, but the ground was also really saturated, so it was full of water. So a lot of that water, maybe a couple of feet in the ground, froze, and when water freezes, it expands and it puts a lot of pressure on the pipes in the ground. Now that it's thawing, that pressure is going to reverse. The ground is going to move, and the pipes are going to feel a lot of stress. We do have pipe in the ground that's cast iron, and cast iron doesn't have a lot of flexibility to it. And that's why now when we install pipe, we install ductile iron, and that has some flexibility to it, so it's able to give a little bit. But if it's a piece of cast iron pipe, it's really brittle. One good data point that's good is the river temperature is about 45 degrees. So if we can hold that, that'll help us. And with a warm up, the river temperature shouldn't drop to 39 degrees, which is the worst case scenario for us. Anything else? Really appreciate y'all coming. I want to reinforce to the citizens that the water system's not at risk. Plants are working great, cranking out lots of water. We just need to stop doing that. Thank y'all.